Now let's create a new component. For that, I will create a new file in the source folder and I will name it home.view. Now in there, we need a template, we need a script, and we might need styles. Now let's stick to template and script. Now in the template, I want to output my server status as before, and I want to set it to status using this property binding, this string interpolation. In here, I want to export an object, export as default, since it is the only export in this file. And here I want to have my data field, which again is a function where I return an object where status is set to critical as before. And I want to have my methods where I now also have an object defining my methods, and now we can use ES6 since in this project it is getting compiled to ES6 or to ES5. We can use ES6 to get it compiled to ES5. Now in ES6 I can also write a method in an object, not like by writing, let's say, change status :function, but instead by simply writing change status parentheses, like this, like a method call kind of. This creates the same, this gives us a method we can execute. And in here, I want to set this status. Remember, we can access the status here, even though it's in an object returned by a function. Vue.js takes care that we still can access it. And I can set this status to normal here. Now with that I got a function I can execute. So in here I'll add a horizontal line and then add a button. And here I want to say change status and use @click and execute change status down there. Now with this setup I created my component. Now I want to use it. How can I use it? We can either register it globally in the main.js file here by saying view component, giving it a selector, let's say app server status to have a Unix selector, and then the object, let's name it home. For that we will need to add an import. I'll name it home. This name is up to you since we export only one object here, export default. We don't have a name here, so you may choose any name when importing it. And we have to import it from the same folder, therefore / for Webpack to find it, home.view. Now with this setup, I can use app server status as a selector in my whole application, therefore also in my root file here. So I'll add app server status here, remove the data object, remove the whole export script here maybe even, and we're getting an error. The error we got here is a key thing we have to keep in mind. It says component template should contain exactly one root element. And with that, it's pretty clear. This is not allowed. We may not have 3 or 2 or any amount of sibling elements. Instead, we only have to use one. So this can be a div, and then we have to wrap everything else inside of this element. The template element doesn't count because that will be removed in the end. This is one restriction we face. It's not too bad though, but it's important to keep in mind. Wrap all your template code inside one root element. This is key, otherwise this will not work. Now, and with that, if you save it, it recompiles and you see server status critical in the browser now. And if we change it, it gets changed to normal. So that works as intended. The key thing to keep in mind is it has to be one root element, and then we're able to register our application or our component as a global component like this, but this one root element restriction also applies for local components. It applies for every component.